I want as many people as possible interested in my deal, because the more people I have that are interested, maybe they bid it up, maybe they don't. I've never been a big proponent of highest and best, but everybody runs their company their own way. But the more attention I have, the quicker I can get that deal sold too.
You're listening to Flip Empire, the show committed to helping real estate entrepreneurs who want to build their empire without sacrificing their life. Your success and freedom starts now with your host, Alex Pardo.
This is episode 760, where I'm going to be interviewing and introducing you to David Olds from Easy REI Closings. And guys, we're going to be talking about such an important part of the real estate investing business, and that is the disposition side and the transaction coordination side of the business, which, as you're about to hear, is an area that I don't really feel, and David agrees, is not getting the time, energy, and attention it deserves. And on this podcast, we're really going to dive into dispositions. We're going to talk about how to not be a motivated seller when you get a property under contract and you're looking to assign it, double close, whatever the case might be. David is going to walk you through his proven step-by-step process on how you guys can sell more deals and not rely on the mentality that the deal is just going to sell itself. For some context and perspective, David is somebody who since 2009 has closed over 1,600 transactions, and his company has helped clients close over 124, almost $125 million worth of transactions. And their clients have gotten total assignments of over $21 million. So he's got a dialed in team of certified transaction coordinators who handle all the boring administrative paperwork. And we're going to walk through just dispositions and transaction coordination, which again is not an area that I think enough people talk about, including myself. I feel like we're always focused on marketing and acquisitions, and you're going to get some real value on this episode. We've kept it short and sweet. And if you want to check out and schedule a call with David and his team of transaction coordinators, head over to reifastclosings.com, reifastclosings.com. And with that being said, guys, let's hop into today's podcast episode. Welcome back, my friends. This is Alex Pardo. And guys, I get to interview some of the top minds within our space in the real estate investor community. And full transparency, this is the first time that David Olds and I are having a conversation. So he is somebody who his reputation precedes him. He's been around for a while. He works with some of the top real estate investors in the country with his business and with his company, Easy REI Closings. So with that being said, guys, we are going to focus today's podcast episode around a topic that, David, I don't know if you're going to agree or disagree with this statement, but I feel like dispositions and transaction coordination doesn't get enough attention, there's not enough content out there around the areas of dispositions. And see, I feel like all the attention and energy goes towards marketing and acquisition and sales and all that. And with good reason, but dispositions is just as important as acquisitions because they're married together. And then taking it a step further, if you've been in this business, you've probably experienced the pain of getting to the closing table. You've already kind of counted your profits, and then something gets fumbled at the last minute, whether it be with the paperwork or whether it be with the title company or maybe the buyer, the seller. Something happens where your deal doesn't get to the finish line. And David has built a business to ensure that doesn't happen, or that all the risk are everything is being done on the back end to make sure that all the energy, money, time, effort you put into getting these deals closed actually close. So, brother, with that being said, man, welcome to the podcast.
No, man, I appreciate it. Thank you so much for having me on. As I said, I've known about you and followed you for a long time. So I'm super excited to get to do this. And the girls in the office were like, you're going on. You're going on. It's going to be a big podcast. Make sure you're ready. And then, of course, I was a couple minutes late. But I appreciate it. I think everything you said in the beginning is absolutely right. For a lot of reasons, our industry focuses more on the front side of the business, the marketing and, pay-per-click and bandit signs and cold calling and text messaging and all of that, and acquisitions, because that's where, most people start. But 100%, I would argue that if you do not understand the second half of the business, which is how to sell your deal, then you're 100% you're going to struggle. And I think people, sort of muddle through that first part and then just do the best they can to sell their deal and post it on Facebook or, whatever strategy there is. And the worst thing I used to coach dispositions for some really high level teams. The worst things that I would ever hear, if you just have a good contract or a good deal, it'll sell. And I'm like, what a bunch of nonsense. I could have the greatest deal ever written on a piece of paper sitting here on my desk, and it's not going to sell unless I do something, right? And that's where the marketing to, sell your deal comes in. And the way that was always just the side of the business that I gravitated more towards. I love talking to buyers. I mean, I'll talk to sellers and I can do it, but I don't love it, right? I had a partner or, I had somebody else who handled that in my business. But the way that I always approached dispositions, which made me really successful, was, we are very aggressive about going out and finding a buyer. The same way that people are, very, hardcore on finding sellers, right? We would build buyer profiles, and, we learned how to drop into any market on any day, and, and find the people who are actually buying. And this was before things like Investor Lift and all that came out, right? Like, we figured out good marketing and just, who was going to be our buyer. So that was a little bit how kind of I got into this side of the business. And then, after doing a lot of that and scaling up my company to where we had, almost 20 people here in the office, we were doing deals in like 30 states, so just about nationwide. You have to get good at transactions and doing those types of deals. So, as a wholesaler, I did over 1,640 something deals, I think was our last count. So a lot of them, over a lot of years. I started wholesaling in 2009. So yeah, I mean, you've got to figure out how to get these deals closed, right? Because again, just even finding a seller and then finding a buyer, getting it over the finish line can be a struggle. And what we do know as an industry, kind of industry insiders know, that 40% of the deals that are contracted with a seller will never close.
That's right.
Right. Like, that's the number. Like, people don't talk about it a lot because they don't want to deter people from getting into the business. But I would rather look at that and say, okay, what can we do to bring that number down? And of that 40% of deals, and some people will say it's as high as 50. And again, there's going to be differences between virtual and local people, right? It's like, because I don't want the one guy being like, I closed 90% of my deals. I closed 90% of my deals when I was just here in Chattanooga. When we went virtual, though, like, that's a different model. That's really a different business. So the blend between the two is somewhere between 40 and 50. But of those deals that die, right, a solid, 50% of that portion dies because it was contracted too high, right? Because we're doing this over the phone. Maybe your acquisitions guy isn't asking the right questions. How's the kitchen? Oh, the kitchen's great. And they just move on instead of like, hey, well, tell me a little bit about it. Oh, it's really 1950s plywood cabinets and a green countertop with metal banding around it. And anybody who's rehabbed a house knows that that's going to have to be torn out. So maybe they don't account for that in their number. Then they send it out to their buyers, and their buyers are like, bro, you're 40 grand high, right? So there's a lot of that. But the other equal side, and sometimes I think it's more, are title issues, right? There's title problems, because what do we do as investors, right? First off, our job is, clearly we should be out here helping people. We shouldn't be screwing anybody over. Right. But we go out and we look for people with distress or properties with distress. So what are the things that we look for? Death, divorce, taxes, bankruptcy, foreclosure, bad tenants, water shut off, all of those things. And those are title problems, right? So it's great because the more of those problems you can solve, the deeper a discount you can get, right? The lower you can have it, the faster it's going to sell to your buyer. But then to get that deal closed, right? What do we also promise all of our buyers? Clear title, proration of taxes. Well, you have to clear up all of those things. So that's where I see, like, all of those deals die, because nobody gets into this business to learn how to do a monument of title, right? It's just, nobody read Rich Dad, Poor Dad and said, God, I want to be a title abstractor. I can't wait to go dig through dusty books and then track down this deed from 1932. So that's somehow I became fascinated with the second half of the business. And that's where I've kind of lived for the last few years.
I love it. Well, man, good for you, because you're a smart man. It seems to me from this side of the mic and of the screen that you've created yourself a niche where everybody has zigged, you've zagged, and you've created a service that really helps real estate investors make sure that, again, all the time, energy, money that they're putting into the marketing and acquisition side of the business is not for nothing, right? Yeah. And to think that 40 to 50% on average, right? Again, there's going to be people out there that are like, Alex, David, I'm crushing it, right? Like 100% of my deals get to the closing table, or 90%, right?
There's also people who lose 80% too. It's like, there's the other end of the spectrum.
I hear you. There's so much to unpack, and I love the fact that you just ripped for 5-6 minutes, because there was so much wisdom in everything you shared. So I'm going to encourage people to go back and rewind and listen to that. But a couple things I want to just big picture zoom out and share with people.
Yeah.
One of the mistakes that I have found, and early on in my journey, like I was guilty of this, I find that when wholesalers finally get a deal under contract, they almost become motivated sellers. And it's
Yeah.
almost like they rush to like get the email out and get the text out and start calling their top buyers and all that. You talked early on when you first started sharing about like, you focused on how to sell these deals. And I
Mhm.
love the fact that you said, David, one of the biggest myths is that these deals will sell themselves. I
Mhm.
think that's a prevailing thought amongst a lot of real estate investors, that they
Yeah.
think a really good deal will do the heavy lifting. How should people listening and watching this podcast approach sales when it comes to the disposition side of the business?
Yeah. So again, I've coached a lot of big teams, and one thing I love to draw on the board is a timeline, right? Like the timeline of a deal, right? It starts with marketing and ends with the day you get paid. And we'll kind of work through, what does that process look like in very broad strokes? And when you get to the point of dispositions, for us, let me just tell you how my company operated, Nationwide Property Liquidators. We operated at a very high level. So that deal would come over to the dispo side. We would re-underwrite it. We would look at it one more time. So in that, but because now we're looking at everything from the buyer's point of view.
Mhm.
So again, I get it, man. I've been there, dude. When I got my first contract, I wanted to cartwheel down Main Street naked, right? Like I was just so excited, right? So I get that. Oh, I just want to get this thing under contract. But when you step back and have to look at it and go, okay, what is it that my buyer wants? Because even on that timeline, right, the end is you get paid. Like this deal lives on, right?
Yeah.
It goes like the house doesn't just magically disappear. So what happens to it next? Well, my buyer needs to make money off of this deal somehow, right? Either they're going to rehab it and sell it, they're going to knock it down, develop the land, they're going to turn it into a rental, short-term rental, student rental, whatever it is, right? Like the deal lives on. So how does that buyer make money? And this is the thing that just, it mystifies me. I would go into some of the biggest offices in the country and I would sit and talk to their acquisitions people, and they wouldn't necessarily understand like contracting these properties from the buyer's point of view, right? So when I'm talking to and we'll get to dispo in just a second, but again, everything is a sales funnel, right? If I put watermelons in the top of my funnel, grapefruits are not going to come out, right? It's, so I always like my acquisitions people to understand, okay, let's do a, for instance, okay, there's a tenant in the property. Great. How long is left on the lease? They're month to month. Perfect. Because now I can evaluate this thing as a rehab or as a future rental, right? But if I'm talking to them and there's 11 months left on the lease, well, now I know my only buyer is going to be a landlord. What do landlords in Columbus, Ohio, what rent multiplier, what is the criteria that buyer is going to be looking for? Could be completely different if the new buyer could toss these people out after a month, give them notice.
Yeah.
And then now they could rehab it, or now they have multiple options. So very important for acquisitions to understand and look at that and say, okay, who would be my buyer? Why would they want to buy this? Do I have this at a price that will make sense to that buyer? And that not only is going to make your acquisition side easier, right? And I'm not here to say, if your company's divided into like, we want to make it so easy for acquisitions. No, we also don't want to make it like they're dragging bricks up a hill. Because I'll tell you, if you take me and the other two best dispositions people in the world, right, and put me on a team where you give us crap deals all day, man, after 60 days, you're going to burn the best people in the business out.
100%.
But also, the way we did in our company is we got a contract, they would ring the bell, hit the gong, whatever it was. But so the acquisition person's like, oh, I'm going to make all this money when this thing closes. But if it's not a sellable deal, then what did you do? Well, you wasted your time. You got people excited. You spent a bunch of money. So super important that everybody just understands the whole process. So, So on dispo, what we did that was different, we would re-underwrite the deal. And then, I thought back to when I first started scaling my company, and I had 3 girls that worked for me that did dispo. I always found women were far better salespeople. And so I remember I'm getting them started, and I just started kind of relinquishing a little bit of control. So I come out of my office one day, Alex, I'm like, all right, girls, it was Taylor, Rachel, and Cassandra. I said, all right, girls, what's going on with these deals? And so they all had a couple of deals they were selling. So they started listing off what they were doing. This one was doing something, that was doing something else. This one was doing something. I'm like, girls, you're all doing like 6 things, but none of you are doing the same 6 things, and we're completely inconsistent. And no wonder why stuff isn't selling. Because what I see happening, same thing with our clients now and with my consulting clients before, was I sold my last deal on Craigslist or whatever, right? So now everything we're going to do is focus on that. And what you need to do, it's the 80-20 rule, which incidentally comes from as a real estate Pardo's principle. But I need to be doing all of the things that are going to sell most of my deals, right? So we narrowed it down into 10 things, right? I'm going to do 10 things consistently over and over and over again. I'm going to have a process. And I'm going to do the same thing on every single deal. And I'm going to train my team that we're going to run that process. And this is building a business and having a process, right? So, simple stuff. I'll see if I can run through it. It was, we're going to get it on our website, right? And we can talk more about that, but you got to have some basic marketing sense on a website, and I'm sorry, I'm going fast because I don't want to go too long here, but, put yourself in your buyer's position, right? So when I would send out a property, whether it was email or on the website or texted, whatever, right? When they go to that site, I want to give my buyer every bit of information they need to make a decision from the couch. Right. And, wholesalers got really lazy a couple of years ago when everything was just selling like hotcakes. And now the times are back to normal, right? It's like it kind of was before that. So, if I've got a property in New York City or New York State and I've got a buyer in California, like if they're sitting on the couch, can I give them every bit of information they need to make a decision, right? So beds, baths, square foot, how's it heated? What are the repairs? What school zone is it? Is it on the bus line? What's the, how big is the yard, right? Like, what are the taxes? Like, what's the HOA? Like, I need to give them all of that information so they can be like, yeah, I want to get the address and get more pictures, or I don't, right? I'm going to pass on it. Right. So we're putting it on the website, and we would only launch a property twice a week. I'm going to give you guys some good stuff here, right? Like we would send out all properties on a Monday or on a Wednesday, right? Because here's the thing. No matter what my team would ever say, and we had as many as 6 dispo people at one point, if I send out a property on Friday afternoon and those calls come in on Saturday, nobody's answering that phone.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I don't give a crud what they say they're promised me they're going to do. Nobody ever does it, right? So here's my philosophy on dispo. Shock and awe, right? When I release a property, it's like a grand opening. I want to put that property in front of every single possible buyer in the market, right? So I want the phones to melt. I don't want my person to be able to get up to go to the bathroom. I want that phone from the minute I hit the market with that, I want that phone just ringing, right? Because we are a high-speed wholesale company, right? We're going to do this, and then we're going to do it again tomorrow. We're going to do it again the next day. I've got to move these properties. We cannot sit and mess around with them forever. So, the way that we would do it, everything that I'm going to talk about here, happens at one time, right? So we're sending out, we're prepping the website, we're sending out the email, then we're sending out text blasts, we're sending out RVMs, do those, whatever.
At your risk, right? Yeah.
Risk, right? I'm posting it in Facebook groups. I had some VAs who are in every single Facebook group. And, when we knew we had a property coming up in Cincinnati, Ohio, they would go get into all the Facebook groups there, just very simple guys, look up, just Facebook search, Cincinnati real estate investor, Cincinnati landlord, Cincinnati investor, right? You'll find them. So we would get into those groups. So that morning, we're dropping that property, right? So emails, social media, texting, RVM, every possible thing that we can do. Craigslist. I'm going to tell you guys, don't sleep on Craigslist. You'll sell 1 deal a month off of Craigslist. So this is what we're doing. Like, boom, this is dropping at 9 a.m. Eastern time on a Monday when we have a deal, right? If it comes in Thursday, we're waiting until Monday because that's when people are back to work. But what is that doing, right? I'm trying to just carpet bomb the landscape so that everybody who might be looking for a deal that day is going to see my deal. And that's what drives all of those calls in, right? Yeah. So all of these things are easy. You can pre-prep an RVM. You can all of it is ready to go. I had a marketing person who just did that. I could probably use a VA for it now. But what does that do? That just the minute we start dropping this stuff, the calls start coming in. Right? Calls and texts are coming back in. So that's what I want my team doing, right? Because everybody knows it is far easier to take an inbound call than to make a bunch of outbound calls, right? The person who calls me is going to be far more motivated than, hey, Alex, saw you're buying properties, over by 123 Main Street. Hey, saw you bought this one 6 months ago. I've got one that's a little bit cheaper. Would you be interested in looking at it?
No doubt.
Maybe that's going to work, but maybe it's not, right? Far better when you're calling me, hey, do you got this deal? Hold on, man, my phone's ringing off the hook. Just give me right?
Yep, create some scarcity, some urgency.
Yeah. So again, we're doing that, every single deal, and I've got 4, 5, 6 people at a time. So we're dropping a ton of these properties all at once. And then the reason we went to doing it on Wednesday was because, if I got a deal on Tuesday, I didn't want to wait till the following Monday. So beyond that, now we're starting to make outbound calls. Once those calls, we burn through that initial flurry. Now we're, the list of buyers that we pulled and, the people we get off Investor Lift and PropStream and all that. Now my team's making outbound calls, right? And they're going out and, and tracking down, kind of concentrically, right? Like, you're the people that were closest and we're going to just work our way out. Yeah. And that, that was the 80-20 rule. Like, we just did it over and over and over again every single time. My team knew what was coming. They were excited. They loved to get the calls. It really jazzed them up. And, that's how we were selling 20 plus deals a month.
I love it, man. Guys, listen to David, because a company that sells 20 plus deals a month clearly is a company that has established guidelines, playbooks, standard operating procedures. And that's really one of the things I'm taking away from our conversation, is just how meticulous and detailed you are about creating systems, processes, structure that are going to be followed. And it's not just dispositions people on a team just kind of winging it, right? Hey there, stop. I promise to get you back to the show, but let me ask you a couple of questions. Are you happy with the money that you're making in your real estate business? Are you generating any cash flow? Are you building wealth? Do you feel like you're making progress, or are you just constantly chasing deals and going after the next transaction and the next transaction? Well, I can tell you from personal experience that there's an easier way, and it's not with single family homes. I believe that self-storage is the best asset class in real estate, hands down, because we're not dealing with tenants, toilets, there's automation, it's a recession-resistant asset class, and it's a business that has the benefits of real estate. If what you're ultimately after is cash flow, building wealth, and time freedom, I want to invite you to just take a few minutes to apply. Go to www.storagewins.com, where you can learn more about our Storage Wins coaching program. And I can help you generate cash flow from your first storage facility within the next 6 to 12 months without needing to use your money or even needing any experience. So head over to www.storagewins.com. And if we like what you have to say, we'll schedule a call, and I look forward to connecting with you. Now back to the show. Yeah. So a couple quick follow-up questions that I think are going to probably be bouncing around in the minds of people like listening and watching this is, what would you say to the mindset, right? And I was taught this, in all honesty, years ago, right? What would you say to the people that would say, hey, like, you have a buyer's list of hundreds or thousands of people, whatever it is, but 80-20, like you really just have a small group of real buyers. Now, in all honesty, we were never at the point where we were selling 20 deals a month, right? So I'm going to defer to you on this. Yeah. The people that subscribe to the mindset of like, hey, let's give our VIP buyers a heads up, quote unquote. Yeah. Right. Or let's give them a small window to act first. And if they don't act, then we'll send it out to the list and we'll blast it out everywhere. I have a feeling I know what you're going to say, but what would you say to the people that are operating with that mentality?
I would say you're wrong and you're leaving a ton of money on the table. So I get it, right? If you have 5 buyers, you can rule the world. Well, no, because here's what happens, right? I have 5 buyers. We're going to use 5 as an example, right? Okay, well, great. Well, Penelope bought 3 properties last month from me and other people. So she's not buying this month, right? Joe is on vacation because he went to Tahiti because his last deal sold a bunch of money. This guy maybe is kind of looking, but his contractor left him, and that leaves me 2 people, right? So, also here's the problem that you fall into when you've got that limited number of buyers. You start to understand that they have a very specific buy box, which is cool. You want to know that. You want to be tracking that stuff. But now let's say they only want 3-bedroom, 2-bath brick ranch houses. Well, now what do you do when you get the 1-bedroom condo? What do you do when you get the fire burned out house? What do you do when you've got, this 5-bedroom, 7-bath house on the golf course, right? So the problem is with our marketing, the nature of our marketing. Now you can be very targeted, right? If you want to do all outbound stuff, cold calling, texting, email, you can be very targeted, right? I can only pull those properties, but you're going to go through data burn very quickly because there's only so many of those, right? Mm-hmm. So in general, what we do is we do PPC or we do bandit signs or we do direct mail to absentee owners, right? We're throwing out that big net and we want to drag in as many leads as we can because that's what you're going to have to do in a scaled up company. Like we ran a very large scaled up company. We burned through data, like, pull a list and skip trace them, call them, like, boom, you burn through 20,000 very fast. So you've got to be, if you want to run this type of company and have that kind of deal volume, you're going to need to bring in as many leads as possible that you can turn into a deal. And those 5 people, again, that's an exaggeration, but if you have a very small buyers list, you may bring in something that those people don't want, right? Or maybe some of those buyers left the market, right? Maybe not one of them's now in storage units, right? And they're not a landlord anymore. I don't know. Yeah. So the goal should always be to have the biggest buyers list you possibly can, because again, I want that phone to melt. I want 40 people calling my team, because you know what that does too? My team sits up a little straighter in the chair and they'll be like, yeah, man, hey, you're not lowballing me. I got 14 calls behind you that I got to return. If you want this deal, dude, it's 182, man. I'll send you the contract right now. What do you want to do? And when you're speaking with that kind of confidence to these buyers, it's going to make a difference. But if you're like, hey, man, Alex, are you sure you couldn't do, all right, man, could you do 175? Like, those are different conversations with people, and they can sense that. All of these people, these buyers, this is real money. It's their $182,000, right? They are not going to spend more if they do not have to, right? Nor everybody's negotiating, right? So, I want as many people as possible interested in my deal, because the more people I have that are interested, maybe they bid it up, maybe they don't. I've never been a big proponent of highest and best, but everybody runs their company their own way. But the more attention I have, the quicker I can get that deal sold too, because if you've ever seen the old I Love Lucy thing, right, where she's at the end of the thing and, all the pies are coming down and she can't get them in the box, right?
I remember.
Yeah, if you're running a good company and you've got a good leads and you've got good acquisitions, like, I need to sell this deal because I've got another one coming tomorrow, or 2 more or 3 more coming tomorrow, right? So that's the difference. If you get 1 deal a month, you can mess around and do all kind of fiddle around, but I want this thing sold. If I'm putting 25,000 on it, I got somebody that's going to give me that number. Boom. I'm going to send you the contract, lock it up. I'm moving on to the next one, because I don't want to lose that buyer and then mess around. And then, now, because I thought I could get $3,000 more. If that's what you wanted, put that number on it and, offer it to people. And the first buyer who comes along and takes it, that's fine. But, the reason that we kind of do all of that, we drop everything all at once, right, is I saw my team in the early days. Oh, I sold my last deal on Facebook, so I'm going to post it on Facebook. And then they're spending time texting back and forth with people who aren't real buyers. And then, oh, that didn't work. So 4 days later, well, let's email it. That's a good idea. Great. And then they email it and they get a couple calls, and then that doesn't work. And now it's 7 days later and like, oh, Craigslist. I sold that one on Craigslist last month. Let me try that. And then that doesn't work. And they're trying these strategies one at a time. Right. And all of a sudden, before you know it, right, time's up. We're like Cinderella at the ball, man. Like, these contracts all have an expiration date on them. They do not go forever, right? Time kills all deals. So that was where we just kind of figured this out. Shock and awe, that is something that works. And is it fancy? You're like, oh, that's not that genius at all. I'm like, well, do it. Right.
Yeah. No, man, one of the things that I'm hoping people take away from this episode, David, is that you treat this like a big, I think you used the words grand opening. You treat it like a big marketing event.
Yeah.
I think about somebody like Grant Cardone, who I think was quoted as saying, like, attention is the most valuable currency.
Yeah.
Right. And it sounds like you kind of treat Dispositions and marketing these deals that way. One question I was curious about, and I think you kind of indirectly may have answered it, but just to be thorough here. So, David, one of the questions I had, and I'm very curious how you would recommend approaching this, and I think you may have answered the question indirectly, but just to be thorough, I want to just ask it, is when you guys put out a deal, are you approaching it first come, first served? If somebody gives you your asking price, whether you have a relationship with that buyer or not, you're going to go ahead and accept that contract? Or are you treating it more, think of like an auction, right? Like, hey, we're going to be accepting, I know you said you don't do highest and best, but we're going to be accepting an offer on this day at this time. How do you guys treat that process?
Yeah. So again, for us, we're a very high speed wholesale company, right? So yes, if you call me up, and even if we don't have a relationship, and also we were bouncing around to different states all the time. So we did not have relationships with people. Different virtual model, completely different from local model, right?
Sure.
Like, let's be clear, very, very different. So because I tried to operate that on a national scale and it didn't work.
Oh.
So no, man, if you're ready to go, you're not signing NDAs and you're not sending me a proof of funds. But what I will say is, hey, Alex, fantastic. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to send you 2 documents. One's going to be a contract. I need you to sign that, get that back to me. The second thing is going to be an EMD payment form so that you can pay your EMD right now.
Yep.
Contract is not valid even if you sign it until I get the EMD. So here's what I'm going to do. If anybody else calls me and offers me the same price, like they are going to get the contract and EMD. Are you ready to go now? Great. If you
Got it.
are, fantastic. If not, I'm going to send it to you anyways. You can think about it. If you happen to get in before the next person, you know, that's what it is. But you are not locked until I have your EMD.
Understood. Understood. Perfect.
And the
David,
way,
man,
go ahead.
oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Go ahead, brother.
Yeah, I was going to just say, and the way we did it, we just did it with a QuickBooks invoice, and it went into our escrow account. So that
Perfect.
was how we were able to operate at a high speed.
Man, I feel like I could talk to you for a long time about dispositions in TC, and we've only like scratched the surface. But
Yeah,
I wanna give you an opportunity. Like I have been hearing for a while now about your company, and
yeah,
you have a company where you have a group of experienced transaction coordinators where their main focus and job is to just handle all the paperwork, make sure that the transaction coordination side of the business is taken care of. And I think I saw a stat somewhere that on average, you guys are saving over 20, 22, 23 hours
yeah.
per file for real estate investors, which guys, if you've been listening to this podcast for a while, you know how much I kind of preach about valuing your time, getting crystal clear on like what is your time worth. Whatever that number is, multiply it times 20, 21, 22, 23 hours to figure out like how much can be saved when you have a team of experienced people. So talk a little bit about what your company does. Like I kind of touched on it, but how you guys help real estate investors, like on the TC side, so that they can focus on just finding deals and just making more money.
Yeah, ultimately, and we don't wholesale anymore. We shut that business down about a year ago because this one was growing, you know, so quickly. But one thing I realized is that it was taking me in a lot of time to get all these deals closed. And in the same way that I needed dispositions help, I needed to have TC help too. And I realized that kind of like where we started, there was zero people talking about transactions. Like nobody was doing any kind of education there. And we saw that just there was that kind of gap in the marketplace, and nobody was helping investors because again, nobody got into this business to learn that kind of stuff, right? Nobody read Rich Dad Poor Dad and said, oh, you know what, I want to be a title abstractor. So yeah, so we started EZ. Really, it was for us and for some of our close friends. We never dreamed that it was going to be this huge nationwide company doing hundreds of millions of dollars a year. It was just wasn't our intention. But I think that just showed that the marketplace needed that. So yeah, our goal was, and this was my goal as a business owner, right? I treat all of our clients just like it was me. But I want to take all of that stuff off your plate. So literally the moment you get that contract, upload it to us, let our coordinators take care of it. It'll get assigned to the right coordinator who's experienced in that type of deal. We'll assign it and pick the right title company. So if you have a novation in West Virginia, we know what title company to be using because we have over 400 partner title companies across the country. But yeah, we just really want to give you that kind of hands-off white glove service where you upload that to me, and it's kind of like taking a baton at a relay race,
Yeah.
right? Hand
Yeah.
that over to us. Our coordinator will call your seller. Hey, Mrs. Smith, this is Claudia. I'm working with Alex on your deal over here at 123 Main Street. Hey, Mrs. Smith, I'm going to be your point of contact from here all the way to closing because I want you out, right? Go get your next deal. Go sell your deal. Go focus on running your business. Let us do the paperwork, and hey, Mrs. Smith, great. We're going to ask you some questions and, we're going to, start to gather up all the information for the title company so we can get this closed just as quickly as possible because that's what we want. That's what you want. That's what the seller wants. That's what your buyer
That's
wants
right.
is to get this thing closed and over the finish line. So yeah, that was kind of the guiding light, or sort of the process that we even approached everything from the very beginning. And yeah, it's been
Yeah.
amazing seeing companies just double, triple, quadruple their revenue over even the course of 6 months because now everybody in the business is focused on the deal, not the paperwork.
Yeah. Yeah. Fantastic, man. So much value and wisdom. And you're right. This was very needed. So I'm glad that you guys stepped in to fill that gap. Guys, I have an affiliate link set up. But if you guys want to close 30% more deals in less time without necessarily having to spend more on marketing to generate leads, head over to reifastclosings.com. reifastclosings.com. And David, when people get to your site, what's the process work? I would imagine they schedule a call with somebody on your team.
Yeah, there'll be probably a little video of you and me chit chatting a little bit, but then right underneath that will be a little blue box that says book a call. And that'll
Yep.
be with me and my team to kind of pick your time and we'll see who's available then. And yeah, then we're just like, let's just have a talk, right? Let's talk about what's going on in your business. How many deals are you planning to do? What was your goal for this year? What do you want to do, in the next 6 months? And, how can we help you? How can we help you do that? We have lots of different plans, kind of depending upon what level you're at. But ultimately for us, man, if you're doing even 2 or 3 deals a month and you're looking to scale, 100%, we should be having a conversation because, that's what we do. We really help specialize in helping people grow their business.
Yeah, I love it, man. I love it. This has been it's been a joy having you on again. I can't believe all the 750 plus episodes. I would venture to say we've talked about dispositions and transaction coordinate probably less than 5% of those episodes. So
Yeah.
again, and that's on me, right? Like, so hopefully we can have you back on here maybe at some
Yeah.
point early next year to talk and dive even deeper into the transaction coordination side of it because it's so important that people have that dialed in. And it's great that you have a team of experienced coordinators. So guys, head over to reifastclosings.com. Watch that video, check out, schedule a call with David's team and try them out. I have been continued to hear just nothing but positive things. A buddy of mine, Stratton Brown, who's got a big challenge going on social media right now of his journey to $1 million a month is working with David. And he's just,
We were his first call. We were the very first call he made.
There you go. There you go. So, and there's a lot. If I mention names, there's a lot of very well-known investors that are working with David and his company. So, David, I want to give you the last word, man. Any parting thoughts? Any takeaways? Is there anything in particular you might want anyone in the audience to just take action on, or just I'll kind of leave the last word to you.
Yeah, and thank you again so much for having me on. One thing that I'd love to talk about is, this can be a difficult business, right? This can be tough. And if you're on the newer side, for sure, right? If you're scaled up, you probably already realize this. But, if you're newer and you're having a hard time, find a group to get plugged into, right? Whether it's a meetup group or a RIA group or a mastermind or something like that, so that you can be around those people that are doing this business every single day and having success. Because plug into that and kind of absorb that belief system, because I'm going to tell you, there is no better business than real estate. Like it has given me a life that, I'll be honest, I don't even know that I deserve on most days, but it's been absolutely amazing. So I hate to see when someone gets discouraged and they quit just a little bit too soon, right? There are, no matter who is listening to this, there are far dumber people out there than you and me who have made a lot of money in this business. So you definitely can do it. If there's anything I can do, man, reach out to me. I'm on Instagram, and I'll do everything I can to help you and answer your questions. But for sure, don't quit. This is an amazing business.
Yeah, love the encouraging words, and you're 1,000% spot on there. So, guys, really want to just thank you from the bottom of my heart for supporting the show. Your time is one of those things you can never get back, and the fact that you're dedicating your time to listen to myself and David just talk in an effort to genuinely want to help you. Hopefully, you can take at least one, if not numerous, nuggets from what David shared to improve your disposition side of the business, the transaction coordination side. If you don't have that figured out, reach out, go to reifastclosings.com, schedule a call with them, and just explore and see if it might be a fit for you, because they're closing deals nationwide. With that being said, guys, have an incredible day, and I look forward to connecting with you on the next podcast episode. Take care.
Thank you so much.
All right, my friend, I hope you enjoyed that Flip Empire episode and got a lot of value out of it. Make sure to check the show notes page for any resources that were mentioned. And speaking of resources, honestly, I don't think I've done the best job of sharing with you my top curated, highly recommended tools and resources that I use in my business or have used in my business. In some cases, these are affiliate relationships with people that I highly trust and respect, and I know these tools and resources can help you and your business go to the next level. And as an ethical bribe, if you decide to try out one of these resources using my link, I will go ahead and send you an unadvertised bonus. I'll send you something of high value. All you got to do is shoot me an email, alex@flipempire.com. Go ahead and let me know that you tried out this resource, and however I can help you getting started with that. Chances are that I know it very, very well and currently use it or have used it. So make sure to check that out, flipempire.com/resources. And if I can be of help or service to you in any way, just shoot me an email, alex@flipempire.com, and I will do anything I can for you. Have an amazing day, and I'll catch you on the next show.